morning, everyone. Happy Sunday morning. Today is June 30th, 2024. My name is Tina Bickford. I am from the Tatted Stamper. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and love what I do and want to share it with everyone, want to show you what we do, hope to inspire you to make and send homemade cards. Today, we're going to make a card using a new bundle that I got called the Country Birdhouse. Maybe a couple of surprise elements. So grab your coffee. If you're here watching live, welcome. And if you come back to watch the replay, welcome. I'll try to put the dimensions up for the cards for the cardstock that I'm using so that you can actually come back to the replay and cut the cardstock and make the card. So if you're here, if you're joining me today, leave a comment. Let me know that you're here. Let me know what you think. And let's switch down to the desk camera. Okay, so I'm just going to turn my ring light on. So today I'm using, it's this Country Birdhouse. This is a photopolymer stamp set from Stampin' Up! So it's a clear stamp set. You can get they have these matching dies that go along with this, and you can buy them in a bundle, which really just means that you save 10% if you buy them as a bundle rather than buying them separately. That said, today is actually the last day to get an additional 10% off any of the bundles. So if you're thinking about buying a stamp set with a matching dies, today's a good day to do it because you get an extra 10% off. So not only do you save the 10% because you're buying the bundle, but you get another 10%. So 20% total off these. So these are the stamps that come with, you can see all of the images on the front. Sorry about that reflection from the ring light. And you get all of these matching dies. There are 23 dies. So there are some dies in here that will actually cut out the images. If you stamp the images, you can die cut them also. And there are extra dies in here that there aren't stamps for. The base that you could set the birdhouse on, there's no stamp for that, but you would just die cut that out of a piece of colored cardstock. Yeah. So let's get started. I am going to use, so I've got this thing lately about the tissue boxes. Well, it's not really a lately thing. I have been saving tissue boxes for a long time, but I'm finally starting to use them. So I thought, why not use this one? This was a tissue box, but it looks like beautiful designer series paper to me. So I decided that I would use this to make a card. And I thought when I looked at this, of course, I'm using Stampin' Up! Products. So I thought, wow, that matched perfectly with the gray granite and the pebbled path. So I would use these colors in my card. going to use the pebbled path. I'm not going to use the gray granite in today's card. I am going to use the Memento Tuxedo Black to do something a little unique. So the stamps that I'm using from this set, I'm going to use the bird and I'm going to use this happy birthday. You can see that, happy birthday, nice and simple. But I'm going to be using a bunch of the dies. I'm just going to take these dies out that I'm using. I'm going to just use the bird. I'm going to use these. So this round one here is like where the hole is in the birdhouse for the birds to go in. And this smaller one is, it would go right below this where the perch would be. So set those aside. And I'm going to use these flower dies. And then I am going to use, these roof dies. I'm not going to use that one. I'm just going to use the scallop one and the top one. You will see what I do with those. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cardstock. So the white cardstock is my card base. I'm take that my card base. My card base is cut. It is an 8.5 by 5.5, and I'm going to score that halfway at 4 1/4. I'm just using my Stampin' Up! Trimmer with the scoring blade. I'm going to line my paper up with the 4 1/4 and score it. So you can see I've got a nice, you can't really see it. A score there. And I'm just gonna fold it. All right. Is it still stalling on you, Luann? Is it still stalling? Or is it working? Is the video working okay now? All right, so I'm going to take now my black cardstock. So for the black cardstock, we're going to have one piece that is 4 3/16 by 5 3/16. I know that's a weird size. Another piece that is 1/8 of an inch by 3 inches, and then we're going to need one piece that is 3.5 by 4 inches. So let's get those trimmed. Line right up to 5 3/16. No, I'll do this one to 4. Because that's going to be my 5. So this one's going to be my 4 3/16. Oops. Here. My 5 3/16. That's my black piece there. So I also need a piece that is an eighth of an inch by 3 inches. This one is more than long enough. So, and the 1/8 of an inch is a really hard one to cut. So I'm just going to line mine up on this side here. And I'm going to cut in the direction of that lip. It helps keep the small sheet of paper stabilized. And it's okay if it's a little bit longer than 3 inches. We're going to trim it anyway. And then we need one more piece of black cardstock that is 3.5 by 4. You do 3.5 by 4. Okay. Now we can, I'm going to put my trimmer away. So we are now going to use, these are all of my pieces here. This is my white card base, there's that. And now we have this. You can use, if you have, if you don't have a tissue box, you can use whatever designer series paper, whatever patterned paper you like. And you can just coordinate your colors with that. The colors I chose were specific to this tissue box. So what I'm going to do with the tissue box, this is the fun part. So I'm going to take my die and I'm going to line this up. Just I want it kind of in the center, sort of, just somewhere in the center where I can build around it. And then I'm going to take a Post-it and I'm just going to take this Post-it and I'm just stick that down so that it just keeps that die in place when I roll it through my machine. So I'm just going to, off camera, I'm going to roll this through my die cutting machine. You're going to hear maybe some cracking or some popping, which is normal. Okay. Let's come back with this now. And you can see when I take the Post-it off, I am now left with these two pieces. I am done with that die, that birdhouse die. So I'm just going to set that to the side. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm not done with it. That's what this piece is for. So I'm going to take this piece, this small, the 3.5 by 4 inch, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cut a birdhouse out of this. So this is going to go through my cutting machine. And here we go. Put that off to the side. And set that off to the side. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to build this card up a little bit. So I'm going to take my black cardstock and I'm just going to use some multi-purpose glue. A little bit heavy-handed there. So I'm just going to take a scrap piece of paper, get some of that off, put it down here away from the edge because I don't want it to smush out. And get it here. Okay. And I'm going to position this on this card. I'm going to position it towards the top. And there's very, very little room around the card. There's very little border. With a multi-purpose glue, you have a little bit of wiggle room, a little time to get that in the right position. And I'm just going to give it a smush, let it set. And then I am going to put my die cut tissue box on here also. Same thing. Put some of this on here. get this lined up so that it's even. A little bit of room to get that. Press it. I said it. There's a little bit of glue seeping out there, so I'm just going to give that a wipe. All right, set that aside for a second. I'm going to take this. I actually could have done this while I was doing the birdhouse itself, but I'm going to put both of these circles here, and I'm going to take my Post-it note. They're lined up. I'm going to take my Post-it note, and I am just going to tack that down. I'm going to run that through the die cutter. Peel off my Post-it, and voila. I have now the bird can get into the birdhouse. And I am done with these two guys. I'll just set those aside. So what I'm going to do with this one, you can just cut a little, if you didn't want to do what I'm going to do, this next technique, you could just cut a circle that's large enough for to cover both of these holes so that you've got black behind it. But I am going to pop this up. I'm going to give it a little bit of a shadow look. So how I'm going to do that, I'm just going to flip this over. I'm going to use my Stampin' Dimensional. So I'm just going to offset this like this. So I want to make sure that I'm not putting any dimensionals on this very like 1/4 of an inch of my birdhouse. So I'm just going to throw a few of these here. Like that. Peel the backings off. Yeah, Luann, I like having a choice of different sentiments too. I like most of the time, I like to leave the inside of the card blank so that you can write your own message. People like to write their own message. So I'm just going to, with all of my dimensionals on the back there, I'm just going to pop this on here. I'm just going to set it lightly so that I make sure that I have the position that I want. And then I'm going to go ahead and tack it down, push down. And then I'm going to take this small piece and I'm just going to take, I have this just a precision tip glue just for these little small things because this one, as you could tell with that, I got a lot on it. And I'm just going to put a little strip of glue here. And I'm going to put this right along here. And I'm just going to tack that right down. And then I'm just going to come back in here and I'm going to trim off that excess. You're still a little wet there. Trim off that excess. Just like that. Good, good, good. Then I am going to put more dimension in on this because why not? I'm just going to pop a couple more here. I'm going to get too crazy with those there. Take those dimensions off. And then I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to line my birdhouse right back up again. Now, because you're covering this, you're basically covering this whole hole with this, you could try to save some paper and cut it out, cut this black part, the black one birdhouse out of this. But I want it, because the shadow is off to the left. There isn't shadow on the right. So I wanted to make sure that you weren't going to see the white card base underneath, which is why I opted to just leave the whole black piece of cardstock there. I'm just going to come in here, line that up with where it was cut, and put that like that. All right. So the surprise elements, other than the tissue box, which is cool in and of itself, but I discovered that your dies can actually cut on felt. They can cut felt. So, and then yesterday when I was playing with this, I also discovered that you can stamp with the Memento black ink on the felt. So, of course, I did. Perfect. You see, and that, I don't know if you can tell with that felt, but it's got a little bit of shimmer in it. So, love that. Now, I'm actually going to bring, just because I want to make sure that my sandwiches are correct here and solid, I'm going to bring my cutting plates over here so that you can see. The cutting plates get really cut up. So usually what I'll do is I use one for the bottom because the dies have a cutting blade on them. You can see this little blade on there. So that's what the cutting blade. So you always want one plate where your cut is, and the other plate would be your top plate for your sandwich. But when this one gets too bad, I usually take my top one, make it my bottom one, throw this one away, and buy a new plate to use for the top. So, all right. So I am going to line up some stuff here on this cutting plate. Now, when you roll through the die cutting machine, if you have a long, flat die, so like this one here, if you have a long, flat surface like this, a die, it struggles to get through the die cutting machine. It just takes a little, it doesn't struggle. It takes a little extra muscle to get it to go through. But if you turn it just a bit, it will roll through nice and easy. Still takes a little bit of muscle. It is a die cutting machine after all. So more felt there, some nice gray felt and some white shimmery felt. And then I decided we'll do a couple of flowers on this pink felt. And the bird, when you have a stamped image and you're using the die, you do want to make sure that you get that stamped image lined up perfectly in there. Now, if this were on paper, I would use my Post-it, but it seems to stay pretty well with the felt. So I'm just going to press those plates together. And I'm going to roll those through the machine. You hear all that cracking? Completely normal. All right, so I'm going to come back with these now. And we have our little bird. The little bird's all cut out. Birdie. And then our flowers. This is actually kind of cool with the flowers. With these specific dies, they also have, so they have the cutting blade, but there's also a little, does like a little score in the middle. So that's kind of cute. And you can, and it's hard to see, I guess, on these, but it does indent the felt a little bit so that you can see that center. I'm just going to do that. And cute little flowers. And then for the roof line, this little scalloped edge for the roof line, and then for the roof itself. So those cutting plates aside. And I'm using the multi-purpose liquid glue for this, and it does take a minute for this to set, especially on this shiny surface of the tissue box. So I'm just going to come in here and put some glue. That's probably a little bit too much glue. Scrape some of that off. Put it up on the top. Now, I am going to use my tweezers to help me put this on straight. I'm just going to put that on there, line that right up, give it a little press, and just let it set. And then I'm going to put, instead of putting it on the felt itself, for this, just because I have a nice line where I can go, I'm just going to put the glue directly on here. Trying not to get too much on there. I don't want it to smush out. And just same thing. I like having my tweezers. They just kind of help me get that nice, that right up against there, nice. A little press. So that'll take just a little bit for that to dry. So with the bird, I decided that the bird needed to go up on dimensionals. Now, doesn't really, you can fit 2 dimensionals on there, or what you can do with the Stampin' Up! Dimensionals anyway, you can, on the edges, they have like this whole edge piece. You can just cut whatever size fits your design and throw that right on there. I don't know why it's stalling. I'll definitely have to go back. I'll have to go back and watch, Luann, and just see if it's done. We had internet issues last week that, so we had our internet company come out to fix, and well, let's just say that ended up with having a plumber coming in. That was not fun. So I just popped the bird right there on the little bit of a shine there. Sorry about that. And now I'm just going to put a little bit of the multi-purpose glue on the flower. Put the flower up here. I'm going to put some on the little baby flower. And we'll put that one down here. And then I'm going to stamp a little sentiment on the front. I'm going to stamp happy birthday, and I'm going to stamp it. You can see there's not a lot of room on the front, but I'm going to stamp it right down here. So I'm using Pebble Pal. I'm just going to come in, line that up, just the perfect amount of space. Put that in there. Happy birthday. Close up this ink pad before I get ink all over me like I did yesterday. And then you can use whatever gems or embellishments you want. Okay. Just going to pop one of these. So these ones that I'm using are called the polished dots. These are actually retired now. That flower needs a little more time for the glue to dry. Oh, I put more glue on it, I guess. All right, you can do that. Yes. So that's it. That's our card. So we're using the tissue box for the patterned paper, the designer series paper. We're using some felt because the felt makes this a feely card. I love feely cards. And then just a little happy birthday sentiment on the bottom with our bird. We got things popped up on dimensionals all over the place. There's all kinds of dimension to this card. Stands for display, obviously. And that's it. So a couple of the other, I'll just show you a couple of the other samples that I did. So with the Country Birdhouse stamp set, you can stamp your image and you can actually color your image using Stampin' Blend markers. The Stampin' Blend markers are alcohol-based markers. And in each set, you get a light and a dark. And I'll show you some of the coloring that I did on one of the cards. If you've never used excuse me, alcohol-based markers, you should give it a try. It was fun. You don't have to be perfect. As a matter of fact, you can be as imperfect as you want, and it still looks great. I can tell you that. So this one right here, this card, I mean, this one, so I die cut the birdhouse itself out of the tissue box that I had. And I also die cut these leaves. I don't know if you can see them very well. I die cut those leaves out also. And this one, I gave the shadow look. I gave it a white shadow look. I thought that looked kind of good on the pool party. So that was one of the other designs. And I did this card here, which this I cut the birdhouse from Night of Navy. I embossed it using it was an old Cuttlebug embossing folder that I had. I used this this designer series paper from Stampin' Up! Called Winter Meadow, which is beautiful. It's got a lot of really nice colors in it, greens and blues and moody mauve. So I tried to lean into that. Use some of those tissue box die cut leaves on this also. And then this one, just for fun, I created a border, a punched border or die out of the card back, and that's where I stamped my greeting. So the inside greeting actually is the sentiment on the front as well. So that one was kind of nice. So there's that one. And then this is the one that I made where you stamp the birdhouse image and then you color it. And so if you can see like the lights and the darks, the shadows in there, and in here you can see all of that stuff. I'm not an artist and I don't love coloring, but that is very easy to achieve with the alcohol-based markers, the Stampin' Blends. So that one, it just opens this way here. So that was another design. And then this this is the one that I did yesterday while I was practicing. I just did it with a blue flower instead. So those are the cards. Let me know what you think. Let me just flip back to me. Here I am. So let me know what you think. This was my first live card tutorial. So yeah, let me know if you're going to try to make the card, if you're going to come back and watch the replay. If you come back and watch the replay, leave me a comment so that I can see the comments and read them all. And yeah, so signing off. Enjoy your Sunday.